Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. Okay, let me find out this. What kind of business experience did you have at 2017 when you're launching this thing? What kind of business experience had you accumulated along life's highway?
So I grew up in a family-owned business, and I've been working since I was 9 years old for them. And so I've always been an entrepreneur myself. I own my own company. Prior to this, it was an exhibition design company. And then when I came up with this concept, it was still under the exhibition design company that I ran. But no formal training whatsoever, nothing. I think that most of it all comes from my grandfather. You know, like you were talking earlier,
Okay.
what I kept thinking my grandfather saying to me was know who you are, know what you're not good at, know what your strengths are, and find the best people that you could possibly afford to hire to fill in what you're not good at, and work with you on that, and then bring them along on that journey. And I've stuck that, I've stuck to that my whole life, and it's worked
And
really
another way of I've heard that I like about that bringing them along in the journey is have a vision that is big enough to include them. It's not just, I can be successful if I do this, but that's the thing about a big vision. If you have the big vision, you can have something that's really exciting for other high quality people to get involved with, because they're like, okay, I can throw, because most people, they know if they're good or not, and they know that there's value to their work. And so if they decide there's opportunity here, this could really pay off for me,
right.
That allows you to attract them, and also
It's building. It's building something. It's getting everyone around you to understand that you're building, and you're doing something that has never been done before. So it's exciting for a lot of people to be involved in, and figuring out how to do that, how to make it happen, how to be successful.
Figuring out what nobody's figured out before. And the other thing is, again, which causes people to, the need, or all this, like, it's not just making money, it's making a difference. This is where you can see the thing, you're making a difference, people value it, people, and they let you get that positive feedback. And so all of these are ingredients for extraordinary success, rather than, hey, let's put on a show, it's going to be great. But how can you do something that's lasting? And so what did you do at 9 years old when you started? What kind of
my parents owned, which they bought from my grandfather. It was a jewelry / accessory store. It was retail. So when I was 9 years old, I used to fill in the inventory, make sure that the back storeroom was all organized, fetch things for all the salespeople, and wrap all the presents for the customers, and anything they needed me to do. And as long as I was in the back, she didn't let me go out on the floor selling until I think I was like 12, around 12 or 13. So,
and what did you, how do you think that informed you and your outlook on things, as opposed to friends you had who are 9 years old and they're just playing and going to school and things like that? I'm gonna darken this screen for a minute. Someone's going to come in here, and I don't want you to get distracted. But I'm here listening. Just keep talking.
That's a good question. I think that I definitely saw the world in a different way And I definitely, I wasn't involved, I don't think, in kind of the more what I thought at the time was my trivial things, with regard to growing up and, like high school drama and, just things that normal kids do. And, I mean, I think that team sports are very important for kids to be involved in, but, I had my own team sport. I was working, and, um, I think I grew up really fast, actually. I think that was the major takeaway, is I was much more mature than a lot of kids my age.
Did your uh, attitudes towards your parents and adults and the real world uh, uh, change, you think, in terms of what these people are doing? And there's more behind the scenes here than just
Yeah, I think I
mom
had
and
a
dad
lot.
telling me, "No, I can't do this and I can't do
Yeah,
that."
I definitely had a lot more respect for adults, especially my parents, after I saw, what how they all the things they have to deal with on a daily basis, which as a kid you don't get to see normally because you're not working with them. You definitely you you learn fast about what the world is and the real questions and the real challenges that happen, on a pretty much daily basis. You also to I learned about people. Does that make sense? Like, and in a lot of different ways about managing people, leading people, um, dealing with them.
What about that? What
But
about that you think was
and then from a sales perspective,
right?
that was a whole different group of people that you learned about, and that was very interesting.
And uh, as you came up the ladder,
Hmm.
uh, how quick did you get a business of your own? Moving on up
Yeah,
and in life.
that kind of happened, almost by accident. I kept getting asked to do these exhibitions, and so, I was successful at it, and so kept getting asked to do more. But
What's an exhibition?
like a museum exhibition, like,
Okay, put on an event, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you could call it that, I guess. They're They were mostly temporary exhibitions for museums that they would set up for, like, 2 or 3
Pop-ups.
months,
Yeah.
and they would have them. Um, and it was during, creating one of these exhibitions that I I walked away from one of the interviews we were doing, and I said to myself, it's such a shame because my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren are never gonna be able to have the same conversations that I was having,
Yeah.
and they were so meaningful and you could learn so much from these people that I just didn't want, a resiliency, hope, um, tenacity, and just how one lives after such trauma that I could never even imagine. I don't think any of us could really imagine. So I just didn't want to lose those conversations. And I was seeing things around me that told me, all right, and this might be something I was particularly also good at, is i- figuring out or connecting the dots, they say, right? So if you see something happening and you see something else happening, what I was able to do is say, okay, if you can do this, you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
And what if we put these two things together? What could that create? And I think that was a big part of it, was being able to have that vision and being able to envision it already working and how it would work. The ultimate experience.
Yeah. One of the keys of being a high achiever is being able to connect dots that other people can't connect, and to kind of be able to visualize. And a lot of that comes because of instinct, a lot of past experience, exposures that you've had. But wherever it comes from, if you can connect that dot, you can say, if you can go over here and do that, boom. Obviously Steve Jobs, could, his thing is, I want one button on this thing, that does 400 things. And so they thought he was crazy, but they figured it out. And so
I was called insane. I was called insane. I was people thought I literally was crazy. I had one institution, when they heard about what we were doing, called it the Seance Project.
Okay.
People thought I was batshit crazy. I mean, they would say to me, "You want to talk to dead people?" And I was like, "No, not really." I mean, don't forget, this was before. So I came up with this concept that I was trying to get people to buy into in 2010. Skype had come out in 2008, I believe, or maybe it was but it wasn't really ubiquitous until 2012. And so there was no point of reference for what I wanted to do. And so no one had any, by the time we did it, like we did our first proof of concept in 2012. And when we tested it in the public, that was probably early 13, late 2012, people were saying to us, they were coming in and they were having the experience and they were talking to these individuals, and they would turn around to me and say something like, or they would say goodbye to the individual, or they would say, "Oh, it's so nice talking to you." And then they would leave. And these were people that we told before they started that this is a video of a person that we did, and you're going to talk to them. So we call it videos that talk back. But they would leave and they would think, no, that person, they were in another room. Right? Or, and they would say, "Oh, I didn't want to ask them this." And I would ask them, "Why didn't you ask it?" And they would say, "Because I didn't want to hurt his feelings."
Wow.
And that he's not really there. And I had one woman who was actually flirting.
Oh no.
It was hysterical. So they now kind of, by 2012, they had some kind of frame of reference, but it wasn't exactly what they thought it was. So
even in Star Wars, you could have told them, like, even the Star Wars, we're the first Star Wars with that hologram of
exactly.
It's kind of like an interactive hologram, and those things have been around. So it's not that voodoo. It's just that nobody's figured it out yet.
Yeah, it was something that was only in science fiction before, but we had just figured out a way to actually do it.
Right. Well, I have actually a science fiction Dick Tracy watch right here in my wrist. So that was science fiction a long time ago too.
I remember that.
Thanks for listening to the Million Dollar Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.